Hey everyone, it's Jerry at the Fledge with the crew from Coding Club. How you guys doing today?
Good.
Doing all right.
Couldn't
All
be
right.
better.
So the objective of the Coding Club is to demonstrate different things around programming and different technologies and hardware and all of that, and to try to recruit new members to come in and demonstrate code that they have. So far, except for me, everybody's demonstrated code before, and Bob's got some resources to share with us today, and maybe a small snippet of code, and we'll go from there. So you ready to start taking it away, Bob?
You bet.
All right.
I'm gonna share my screen.
Okay. And while he's doing that, what you been up to, Quinn?
I haven't done much this week. I've learned some front-end design for like CSS and things, but that's about all right now.
Are you enhancing that program that you showed us with the how do you say that, Sudoku?
Yeah, I did get a few ideas. Yeah, I did get a few ideas to make it take less lines after the class is defined. So
Yeah.
I can just include a few things in the initializing function.
And then you'd have a UI, or is that what you were
I might
thinking?
try to. I found an interesting library called Flask Web Gui, and Flask is a simple, lightweight web framework, so you can essentially just turn that into a standalone GUI somehow. I haven't used it yet, but it sounds interesting.
Okay. All right. You ready, Bob?
I think so. I think I've shared myself, and there you go. Now, what have I? Okay, just a second here. Let's see what happens. Okay. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Basically, there's an enormous amount of free information out there on the Raspberry Pi site. They've got magazines. I've got several of them up here. I'll pop over to several of them. The first one is the MagPi. They've got anything you can imagine in there, and you can download any of these for free, and it goes back for several years, and they're all free downloads. You can also actually subscribe and buy them and get paper copies and stuff like that. Another one, they've got books, Raspberry Pi handbook. This one here, the Raspberry Pi Beginner's Guide, 4th edition. I've got that, and I'll pop that up in a minute. I'm going to show you the snippet of code. What I'm interested in is showing people that have very little to no experience and want to get into it. And this is one resource that you can use. And if you're into doing other types of things, here, let me make sure I've got, let's see, issues here. Okay. It's called Hackspace, and this is geared toward doing the physical computing stuff, hooking and they deal with stuff other than Raspberry Pis too. They deal with Arduinos and lots of other things, but they are still part of the Raspberry Pi Foundation stuff. They've got a whole boatload of stuff too in there about, anything that's related to, computing and robotics and anything like that. And then if you're a gamer, which I'm not, and I know that's an oddball thing for anybody that's in IT to not be a die-hard gamer, but they've got a whole set of issues up through issue 45 that's strictly all about gaming. They interview people from different gaming companies, and they put code in there for all kinds of different things. So that's that part that I wanted to cover. And then there's an organization that's tied with the Raspberry Pi Foundation that has an enormous amount of very well put together it's actually like courseware for computing, and it's at 4 different levels. They call this Key Stage 4, and this is for high school, probably sophomore, junior, senior year stuff. And they go through all of this stuff: algorithms, computer systems, database, HTML, networks, programming. They get into a pretty good bunch of stuff about there. And then they get into stuff that if you're actually going to work in the area, it will be useful to you too, like IT project management, so on and so forth. So this is a very good resource. This again is free. This thing though, you have to, set up a login for it, but and they want to know if you're a teacher or doing it for your own stuff or whatever, that. But I was able to, set up and get in there and pull the stuff down. Another thing that I started looking at was the MOOCs, the massive open online courses. Coursera is one of them. edX is another. And then the old one that everybody's probably heard of, but still has a lot of good stuff, is Khan Academy. And these are not all of them, but these are 3 that I'm somewhat familiar with and have actually used. Okay, so now what I'm going to do after I've went on about that for a while, I'm going to show you this programming, Chapter 5, Programming with Python. This is the beginner's guide. Let me go back to where I found that. And that was at the Raspberry Pi. No, not here. This is in the Magpie, and it's in the books, and it's this one at the top right. Raspberry Pi Beginner's Guide, 4th edition. It's got a lot of other stuff in it. It's 252 pages long, but it has a really nice chapter that's, sort of lays it out, tells you about Python and what it is, and tells you a little bit about the IDE that they are using in this example, which is Thani, or I think that's how you pronounce it. It runs on a Raspberry Pi, but I'm actually running it on this laptop as well. And they've got an example here that I actually highlighted it, and I'm too damn lazy to key it in myself, But anyway, I just wanted to show this little example right here where they put you in a loop, a for loop, and then print out, the actual index of that root, and print the stuff out. So I'm going to go over here to Thani, and here it is, magically in there. And this is the interface. There's a lot of free interfaces out there. This one seems to be used in the Raspberry Pi stuff a lot, along with just idle that comes with Python. And so when you run it, you click on this little green arrow up here, run the current script, and then down there at the bottom where it says shell, it'll show you what ran. So, and that's it. It just went through that loop, and it showed you that first line that it printed out. And then it goes through that loop, and each time it goes through that loop, it that index gets incremented, and then it prints it out. And then when you're done, you're outside of that loop now, and it says the loop is finished. The one thing to pay attention to in a lot of coding that I think hangs people up initially when they start coding is that when they start counting, they don't start with 1. They usually start with 0. So I think, let me see if there was anything else that I was thinking about. Oh, yeah, one other thing, and I mentioned this earlier. I've decided I've got to jump into something so that I'm actually writing some code right now, too. So I'm going to work on automating my time lapse stuff. I've got in excess, I think, of 900,000 stills that I've taken over several years. And then I'm going to get back to work on the weather station, which should make Jerry happy.
Yes, please.
And then one other thing I would like to mention is the 11111, which Jerry and I have talked about this before. It is I'm going to pop this up right on top of here. I've been thinking about getting some type of inexpensive computing into the hands of people that might not have access to a computer. And I sat down one day and added up what I thought it would cost. First thing on the top of my list is a Raspberry Pi 4 with 2 gigabytes of memory. It's a quad-core 64-bit processor, $35. MSU Surplus has 19-inch monitors for $20. You need a power supply for the thing, $7.95. HDMI to VGA adapter, $6.99. Micro HDMI to HDMI cable male to female, $4. Class 10 16 gigabyte micro SD card, $6.19. Raspberry Pi 4 case, $10.99. Keyboard and mouse, $19.99. And when I added it up, it magically came to $111.11, and I went, oh, I like the ring of that. So I've actually registered a domain name, 11111.us, because that was cheap. I can get 2 years for like $9, $10, I think, $9.98. So, and I've actually started the website. It's going to be WordPress. It's going to be pretty straightforward and simple. It's just going to say why it's being called that, and then what we plan to do with it, and then show, what you get. So
a quick question about the code. Inside of that loop, could I have been printing other things or having other things executed?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you could put as much as you wanted in there. I just wanted to pull that simple example out of that, from the, here, let me bring it back up.
Yeah.
That was the example they had, but yes. And the other thing too, and this is something that, if you've done some Python, programming, it's going to be second nature. But rather than having curly braces and all the rest of that baloney, they just do indentation. So in fact, if you were to, well, here, let me get back to my code here a second. I'll show you something else that happens. If I tab this thing over, that will be within my loop. Now I'm going to run it again and you'll see different results. You notice that loop finished comes after each one.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on there, because it was inside the loop. And that's done just by the indentation.
Yeah, I wish Marcel would have been here. He was trying to solve a problem with looping earlier, and this will be good for him. So we'll have him watch.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
Yeah, that's we can work on this kind of stuff with Marcel or anybody,
right?
And some of it can even be outside of the half hour we spend in Code Club.
Yep, we'll talk about all that.
Yeah. I've taken up more than my 5 minutes, so I'm going to turn it over to anybody else, or if you want to keep listening to me drone on, I will.
It's what we have for a second. So let me try to fill in a couple plugs. Quinn, do you have a Raspberry Pi?
I do not have one yet.
Okay. Is that something you're interested in? Cindy was.
I've seen a few things. I've read a few things, like maybe running a local web server on one for personal use, and I'm thinking about maybe getting a lower end one
Okay.
for that purpose.
All right. Thank you for that. Back to you, Bob.
Yeah.
I did want to I put the link to the YouTube video of you and I talking about 111.11 in the
Okay.
comments here. Plus, with the help of Jeremy, we put all the links that you showed with the resources. So thank you guys for teaming up and getting me those links.
Good.
And then I guess the last thing is there anything, do you want to add something, Jeremy? Not the complete last thing, because I'm going to ask you the same thing, Quinn. But is there something you wanted to talk about too, Jeremy?
Well, my words of wisdom for today, I guess, are just that you know, when you think of programming, it can go beyond, you know, creating an app. It can go beyond going through basic exercises and learning loops and different things like that. Having a background in programming is important for things like automation, whether that is automated testing of software, whether that is automating some task that you want to do faster or have run in the background and just monitor your results. Having some basic understanding of programming is integral in being able to take on projects like that. So, you know, there's a lot going on in what's called DevOps these days, and it's basically the combining of, you know, some programming background and, you know, things like networking. And, you know, it's going to pick up as we go forward. So that's all I really wanted to mention. So, you know, just to get people thinking about the different ways they can use some of the material we're presenting.
And then Quinn, did you want to add anything today?
I haven't really studied much other than I did since last time, so I haven't found any topics quite yet, but I think I'll have something soon.
Okay, cool. And then just another call out there to the crowd. Please come demo if you want. Come get involved. We're trying to build little projects and put things together and just show off the things that we've done. So with that said, I think that's a nice, crisp, clean coding club for the day. Thanks for what you shared with us there, Bob. And is there anything anybody wants to close with? You want to talk about anything else, Bob?
Yeah, I could go on and on and on and on, but I don't have anything in particular to share today.
All right, then we're going to call it a coding club for today. I think it looks good. And join us again next week, Mondays at 5 for coding club. If you want to get involved, if you want to demo something, send me a message to jerry@thefledge.com or hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, or on even under this YouTube channel, and we'll get you a link to come in and demo. So with that said, have a great weekend, everybody, or a great week, everybody, and Happy New Year until we see you next time. Peace.